Imagine journeying deep into the humid, verdant lowlands of Mexico, where the air is thick with the scent of damp earth and the calls of unseen creatures. Suddenly, through the dense foliage, a face emerges. It is not of flesh and bone, but of colossal stone, weathered by centuries of rain and sun. This is your first encounter with an Olmec colossal head. These immense sculptures, some towering over 3 meters high and weighing as much as 50 tons, are silent sentinels guarding the secrets of a civilization that vanished thousands of years ago. They possess a profound and arresting presence, their features so individually rendered that they seem to hold the quiet breath of life within their volcanic rock forms. One cannot help but feel a sense of awe, a connection to a deep and distant past that seems almost tangible in their gaze. For centuries, these magnificent heads lay hidden, swallowed by the jungle or buried beneath layers of soil, their existence a forgotten chapter of human history. The first one was rediscovered in 1862, sparking a wave of curiosity and wonder that continues to this day. They are not mere statues, they are powerful statements. Monumental portraits from a world without writing as we know it. Each head is unique, bearing a distinct expression, some serene, some stern, others seemingly lost in thought. Their sheer scale and solemnity challenge our modern perceptions of what ancient peoples were capable of achieving. They stand as a testament to the ingenuity and artistic spirit of their creators, inviting us to ponder the lives and beliefs of a people who shaped the very foundations of Mesoamerican culture. The mystery begins the moment you stand before one. How did they do it? Who were these individuals immortalized in such an enduring and monumental fashion? The heads seem to ask more questions than they answer. They are like enigmatic ambassadors from a bygone era, their impassive stone faces holding stories we can only dream of deciphering. Their discovery tore a hole in our understanding of the ancient Americas, revealing a civilization of incredible sophistication that predated the more famous Maya and Aztec empires. These stone guardians force us to reconsider the timeline of cultural development in the New World and to appreciate the depth of its ancient roots, which stretch back into the mists of time, far beyond what was once imagined. As we gaze upon these incredible artifacts, we are not just looking at carved stone. We are looking into the soul of a lost civilization. The Olmec heads are more than just archaeological wonders. They are a profound reminder of the enduring human impulse to create, to remember, and to leave a mark upon the world. They challenge us to piece together a story from fragments, to use our imagination and scientific inquiry to breathe life back into the shadows of the past. These silent sentinels, with their powerful and quiet dignity, continue to watch over the legacy of their people, beckoning us to listen closely to the whispers of history that emanate from their ancient, stony silence. So, who were the people behind these astonishing creations? They were the Olmec, a civilization that flourished in the tropical lowlands of south-central Mexico between approximately 1500 BCE and 400 BCE. Long before the Great Pyramids of the Maya or the sprawling city of the Aztecs, the Olmec were building complex societies, complete with large civic and ceremonial centers like San Lorenzo and La Venta. Their world was one of rich alluvial plains, winding rivers and a dense rainforest teeming with life. It was here, in this challenging yet bountiful environment, that they laid the cultural and intellectual groundwork for all the great civilizations that would follow in Mesoamerica. The Olmec are often referred to as the cultura madre, or the mother culture of Mesoamerica, and for good reason. They appear to have been the originators of many traditions and innovations that would become hallmarks of the region for millennia. It is believed they were among the first to develop a sophisticated calendar system, to practice ritual bloodletting, and to play the famous Mesoamerican ball game, a sport with deep religious and political significance. Their influence can be seen as a powerful river that flowed through time, feeding the cultural landscapes of later peoples. The Maya, the Zapotec, and eventually the Aztecs all appear to have inherited and adapted elements of Olmec art, religion, and social structure. Their society was highly organized, capable of mobilizing large numbers of people to construct enormous earthen mounds and complex drainage systems. This level of coordination suggests a hierarchical society, likely ruled by powerful chieftains or kings who commanded both political and spiritual authority. It was these rulers, many scholars believe, who were immortalized in the colossal stone heads. The Olmec worldview was deeply intertwined with the natural world. They revered animals like the jaguar, the eagle, and the serpent, often blending their features with human forms in their art to create powerful supernatural beings. This complex cosmology helped them make sense of their world and their place within it. Despite their profound influence, the Olmec remain one of antiquity's great enigmas. We do not know what they called themselves. The name Olmec comes from the Aztec language and means rubber people, a reference to the rubber trees that were abundant in the region. They left behind no comprehensive written records that we can decipher, only the silent language of their art and architecture. Their story must be pieced together from the clues they left buried in the earth: pottery, jade figurines, and of course, their magnificent stone heads. They are a foundational culture, the deep roots of a great tree of civilizations, yet they remain tantalizingly just beyond our full understanding. The features of the Olmec heads are what make them so utterly captivating. Each one is a distinct portrait of an individual, not a generic representation of a god or a symbol. They are strikingly naturalistic, capturing the subtle nuances of a human face on a superhuman scale. The heads depict mature men with fleshy cheeks, flat noses, and full, slightly downturned lips. Their eyes are often almond-shaped and appear to gaze with a calm, focused intensity. These are not idealized faces of perfect beauty. They are portraits of real people with all their unique characteristics. One can almost imagine meeting these individuals on a path in the ancient jungle. The sheer size of these sculptures is difficult to comprehend without standing beside one. The smallest are around 1.5 meters tall, while the largest, discovered at the site of Leventa, reaches a staggering 3.4 meters in height. Their weight is equally immense, ranging from a relatively modest 6 tons to an astonishing 50 tons. To put that into perspective, 50 tons is the approximate weight of 10 adult African elephants. The heads were sculpted in the round, meaning they were fully three-dimensional, though the back is often flatter than the front. This suggests they were likely intended to be viewed from the front, perhaps placed against a wall or at the entrance to a ceremonial plaza. One of the most defining and consistent features of the colossal heads is their headgear. Each individual wears a unique and intricate helmet or headdress. These are not simple caps. They are complex arrangements of straps, panels, and decorative elements. Some helmets feature patterns that resemble netting or woven cloth, while others have ear flaps and chin straps, much like the protective headgear worn by modern athletes. These helmets are never identical. Each one is as individual as the face it adorns. This attention to detail reinforces the idea that these are specific portraits, perhaps even documenting the personal regalia of the person depicted. The expressions on the faces are a source of endless fascination. While they are often described as stoic or stern, a closer look reveals a range of subtle emotions. Some appear calm and contemplative, others seem to exude an air of formidable authority, and a few have a slightly sorrowful or weary look. The artists who carved them were masters of their craft, able to imbue solid, unyielding stone with a sense of personality and inner life. These are the faces of rulers, of warriors, of men who held immense power and responsibility. They are humanity carved in basalt, a gallery of ancient leaders whose names are lost, but whose powerful presence endures across the millennia. The creation and transportation of the Olmec heads represent one of the most remarkable logistical and engineering achievements of the ancient world. The first challenge was sourcing the raw material. The heads are carved from basalt, a hard, dense volcanic rock. The nearest sources of this specific type of basalt were in the Tuxtla Mountains, located up to 150 kilometers away from the Olmec centers where the finished heads were discovered. This means the Olmec had to somehow move multi-ton boulders across a landscape of swamps, rivers, and dense tropical forest without the aid of wheeled vehicles or beasts of burden like oxen or horses, neither of which existed in the Americas at the time. Carving these monumental sculptures was another immense undertaking. Basalt is an incredibly hard stone, and the Olmec possessed no metal tools harder than stone itself. They would have had to carry out the painstaking work of shaping the boulders using harder stone hammers and abrasive materials like sand and water. It would have taken teams of skilled artisans months, perhaps even years, to complete a single head. They would first have to quarry the enormous boulder, then likely do the initial rough shaping at the quarry site to reduce its weight before the arduous journey began. The fine details, the subtle curves of the lips, and the intricate patterns of the helmets would have been slowly and patiently ground into the stone. The journey from the mountains to the cities is a subject of intense debate among archaeologists. The most widely accepted theory is that the Olmec utilized the region's extensive network of rivers. They would have moved the massive stones to the nearest riverbank, a monumental task in itself, possibly using wooden rollers and immense manpower. Once at the water's edge, the boulders would have been loaded onto enormous balsa wood rafts. They could then have been floated downriver and along the coast of the Gulf of Mexico to a point near their final destination. This would have been a perilous and incredibly difficult operation, requiring immense planning and coordination. Upon arrival near the ceremonial center, the final leg of the journey overland would have commenced. Again, using nothing more than human muscle, ropes, and perhaps sledges and rollers, the Olmec would have dragged the colossal heads into their designated positions. The entire process, from quarrying the stone to erecting the finished monument, was a statement of power. It demonstrated the ruler's ability to command vast resources and mobilize a large labor force. It was a physical manifestation of their authority, a project that would have involved and awed the entire community, reinforcing the social and political order of the Olmec world. The question of who these monumental portraits represent has long intrigued scholars. While we can never be entirely certain without written records, the prevailing theory is that the colossal heads are portraits of powerful Olmec rulers. The immense effort and resources required to create and transport just one of these sculptures suggests that the person being commemorated was of supreme importance. It is highly unlikely that such an honor would be bestowed upon anyone less than a king or a paramount chieftain. These were the men who stood at the apex of Olmec society, and these stone heads were their way of projecting their power and preserving their legacy for eternity. The individuality of each head strongly supports this theory. If they were meant to represent gods or mythical figures, one would expect to see more standardized features or supernatural attributes. Instead, we see what appear to be realistic depictions of different men from different periods. It is possible that when a ruler came to power, he commissioned a portrait of himself to be placed in the ceremonial heart of his city. The heads may have served as a kind of royal gallery, a lineage of stone kings that reinforced the legitimacy of the current ruler and the continuity of the dynasty. Their imposing presence would have been a constant reminder to the populace of the power and authority of their leaders. Furthermore, there is evidence that the heads were sometimes deliberately defaced or moved. At San Lorenzo, many of the heads were found buried in lines, and some show signs of intentional damage before being interred. This has led to speculation about rituals of succession or conquest. Perhaps when a ruler died, his monument was ritually killed or decommissioned by his successor to mark the end of his reign and the beginning of a new one. Alternatively, the damage could be the result of internal conflict or invasion, where a rival faction or an outside enemy sought to destroy the symbols of the city's power by mutilating the portraits of its kings. These monuments may also have served as conduits to the supernatural realm. In many Mesoamerican cultures, rulers were seen as divine intermediaries, individuals who could communicate with gods and ancestors. The colossal heads, placed in sacred precincts, might have been seen as more than just portraits. They could have been considered sacred objects imbued with the life force or spirit of the ruler they represented. They may have been the focus of important rituals, where offerings were made to secure the well-being of the community and to honor the powerful lineage of kings who had guided the Olmec people through history. The helmets worn by the figures in the colossal portraits are one of their most telling and mysterious features. Far from being simple head coverings, they are elaborate and highly specific, suggesting they held great significance. The most practical interpretation is that they are protective headgear, perhaps worn during warfare, or for the ritual Mesoamerican ball game. The ball game was a dangerous sport played with a solid rubber ball, and players are often depicted in other Mesoamerican art wearing similar protective gear, including yokes around their waists and helmets on their heads. If the Olmec rulers were also elite athletes or warriors, their helmets would have been a key part of their identity. Each helmet is unique, adorned with distinct motifs and symbols. These are not random decorations. It is highly probable that these symbols acted as emblems of personal identity, lineage, or achievement. For example, one of the San Lorenzo heads, known as El Rey or the King, wears a helmet with a complex emblem featuring claw-like elements, possibly linking the ruler to the power and ferocity of the jaguar. a central figure in Olmec cosmology. These emblems could have functioned much like a coat of arms in medieval Europe, a visual signature that immediately identified the individual and their place in the world. They were symbols of status and personal power, unique to the man who wore them. The helmets may also signify a specific political or military office. The consistency of the general form, a close-fitting cap with straps and occasional ear flaps, across all the known heads, suggests it was a standard part of a ruler's regalia. The variations in decoration would then serve to distinguish one ruler from another within that established tradition. The headgear, therefore, simultaneously communicated both the ruler's membership in the elite ruling class and his own unique identity and authority. Wearing the helmet was a visual declaration of his right to rule, a symbol understood by everyone in Olmec society. Ultimately, the helmets add another layer to the portrait of the Olmec leader. They depict not just a man, but a man in a specific role, a leader, a protector, and possibly a champion. The combination of the intensely personal, realistic face and the formal, emblematic helmet creates a powerful image of leadership. It is a fusion of individual identity and public office. The rulers are shown not as distant gods, but as powerful humans who have earned their authority and wear the symbols of their office with pride. The helmets are a key part of their story, a riddle in stone that speaks of power, identity, and the sacred duties of a king. The era of carving colossal heads eventually came to an end. Around 900 BCE, the center of San Lorenzo was abandoned, and many of its monuments were defaced and buried. While the Olmec culture continued to thrive at other sites like Levanta for another 500 years, the practice of creating these massive portraits ceased. The reasons for this are still unknown. It may have been due to environmental changes, internal social upheaval, or the rise of new religious and political ideologies that no longer required such monuments. Whatever the cause, the silence that followed has left us with an enduring mystery, a story without a final chapter. Despite their eventual decline and the mystery surrounding their fate, the legacy of the Olmec was anything but silent. Their cultural innovations echoed through the centuries, profoundly shaping the civilizations that followed. The concept of divine kingship, the cosmological belief centered on powerful animal spirits, the calendrical systems, and the ritual ball game all became foundational elements for later Mesoamerican societies, including the Maya and the Aztecs. The Olmec were the wellspring from which much of the region's cultural richness flowed. When we marvel at the complexity of the Maya calendar or the grandeur of Aztec temples, we are, in a sense, seeing the distant legacy of the Olmec at work. Today, the 17 confirmed colossal heads that have been unearthed stand as the most iconic surviving remnants of this great mother culture. They are housed in museums where they continue to inspire awe and curiosity in all who see them. They are more than just artifacts. They are ambassadors from a lost world, challenging us to look deeper into the past. Their stoic faces, weathered by time, remind us that great civilizations can rise and fall, leaving behind only tantalizing clues to their existence. They represent a fundamental chapter in the story of human achievement in the Americas, a chapter that we are still learning to read. The Olmec heads are, in the end, a powerful testament to the enduring quest for knowledge and the beauty of mystery. They do not give up their secrets easily, and perhaps that is their greatest gift. They compel us to ask questions, to imagine, to investigate, and to piece together the human story from the fragments that survive. They remind us that our shared past is a vast and fascinating landscape, with many regions still unexplored. As long as these stone guardians continue to gaze out at us from across the millennia, the human spirit of discovery will have a profound and powerful reason to keep searching for answers.